we're talking about how my mom pissed me off, so I slept with my dad. Okay, so boom, let's jump right into it. My mom's 26, my dad's 36, and I'm 13. And yes, she had me at 13 years old. To be quite frank, my mom is a very jealous woman, specifically jealous of me. You see, I'm quite popular in school, I get lots of attention, and I love it. But every time I go home, my mom wants me to do chores like wash the dishes, clean the yard, and vacuum the carpets. I hate when she does this because why should I have to clean this stuff? This not my house, I was just born in it. But she wants to, quote, instill good ethics in me, whatever that means. But the kicker is every time my dad's home, I get anything I want. Any food I want to eat, any gift I want, and he even gets me out of chores sometimes. If you ask me, my mom's jealous of our bond. Because sometimes when she sees me sitting on my dad hugging him, she would at those moments tell me to do chores. And unfortunately for her, one day it worked. I was sitting on my dad watching a Netflix movie and eating good. Here comes my mom coming home from work telling me to go do the dishes because it's full. This got me so mad. Why do I have to do chores? And that's when my plan started. I was going to sleep with my dad to get back at my jealous mom. Like for part two. Part two on how my mom pissed me off, so I slept with my dad. Okay, so boom, like I said, my mom came back from work and told me to do chores. I told her no, I'm watching a movie with dad, hoping my dad would back me up. But he said, go ahead, sweetheart, I'll pause it till you're done. This got me so mad. Why do I have to do chores? And that's when my plan started. I was going to sleep with my dad to get back at my jealous mom. So the next day I got back from school and my dad was home. We have about 3 hours together before my mom gets home from work. I was going to make sure I get my dad in bed. He was sleeping once I came back home from school, so I went and took a quick shower and I joined him. I laid beside him and he woke him up. Then my dad asked me what was I doing. No words needed. I kissed him and he kissed me back. And it happened. Yes, it happened. How's that to that jealous woman? That day we didn't get caught and I felt good because my mom deserved it, don't you think?
I had the creepiest dream. Story time. So last night I had this dream that I was in this daycare with this creepy little boy. And the thing that made him creepy is that I think he was dead. His eyes and mouth were sewn shut, but he was still able to talk to me and see me. It was weird. He was also covered in dirt, like somebody just dug him out of a grave. So he starts showing me around the daycare and he leads me to the main office. Inside the main office, there was nothing but this huge glass container, and inside of the container were these glowing orbs. And I asked the boy what they were, and he told me that they were souls of people who got stuck. And in that moment, I started to realize that I was in a dream. So then I asked him, like, am I dreaming right now? And he turns to me, rips his eyes open, rips his mouth open, and he says, if they realize that you're awake, you will be stuck here too. And then he takes his hand, puts it over my eyes, and I wake up from my dream.
Story time about how I was dating the school shooter. Yeah. So a little background information. I was a sophomore whenever this all happened. And it was around October. Well, the one day I was sitting at lunch with my group of friends. We're all sitting there having a good time when one of my friends dares me to go over and sit with this one kid. And he was sitting alone. He was kind of shy. And of course I did because they had offered me $10, guys. Can't beat that. So I go over there, we start talking, and I realize that he's actually really nice. And he's really hot. I never really saw what he looked like because he was always wearing hoodies during school. Anyways, we started hanging out more, and eventually he said that he liked me and we started dating. The relationship seemed pretty perfect. Well, 6 months in, I think he started to trust me more. Because he had told me about this one group of girls that he absolutely hated. This group of girls just happened to be my friends. I didn't tell him that I was friends with these girls because they were considered controversial. Like for part two. Part two about how I was dating the school shooter. Like I said, I had never told him that I was friends with these girls because they were controversial. But he would go on for hours about how much he hated these girls. He went as far to say that he wanted to kill them. I didn't think anything of it at first because him and I had more of a sarcastic sense of humor, but he started to sound more and more serious every time that he would talk about it. Well, after us dating for 10 months, he calls me the one night and he starts telling me about how he's going to shoot up the school. He had told me his entire plan of how he was going to do this. Now, he must have thought that we were like ride or die relationship, when in reality, I was recording everything that he was saying. After we got off the phone, I wrote an email to all of the office staff in my school, but I fell asleep and never finished the email. I woke up the next morning, finished it. I had texted my friends not to go to school that day. I had already missed the bus. I rode my bike to school that day. I ran to the principal's office, nobody was there, and that's whenever I heard shots in the hallway.
This man thought he got away with something terrible he did as a kid, but he was wrong. Wunter was a rich businessman. Let's just call him Derek. Derek was walking home from work when a boy ran up to him and started pulling on his suit. He said, "Mister, give me 1 penny." Derek shouted, "Leave me alone," and walked away. The boy was left outside freezing in the cold. The next day, the same boy was standing on the street and said, "Mister, give me 1 penny." Derek was annoyed. He threw a penny at him and said, "Here, there you go, now leave me alone." But he could have never known who this boy actually was. This time, when he got home, he started feeling uneasy. Something about these interactions felt a bit weird to him. He went to bed, tried to fall asleep, but as soon as he closed his eyes, he heard a voice right up against his ear say, "Mister, give me 1 penny." Derek jumped out of bed. His wife told him to calm down, so he tried to. There was no one else in the room, but something was wrong. Derek began to remember what he did. When he was a young boy, him and his friends had done something horrible. Terrified, he went up to the attic and found his old yearbook. Then, flipping through the pages, he saw a photo. Derek thought, how was this possible? He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Follow for part 2. This man thought he got away with something terrible he did as a kid, but he was wrong. After Derek ignored the boy in the street asking him for 1 penny, he went home, but he always felt a bit strange about their interactions. Then he went into the attic and found his old yearbook. While flipping through, he found a photo that would haunt him forever. When he was younger, him and his friends were bullies, and they had done something unspeakable to a boy. After beating him, Derek and his friends threw him in the river without a second thought. The boy never showed up to class the next day, but Derek and his friends assumed that he moved away. How was it possible that the boy Derek bullied years ago was the same boy asking him for a penny in the street now? Even though Derek grew up to be a successful businessman, he held the yearbook in his hands, horrified at how his past had come back to haunt him. Within the next few days, Derek took out his life savings. He brought the bag of money out to the boy and said, "Here's every penny I have. Now please leave me alone." But the ghost boy just looked at him blankly. Then, in an instant, his face turned into a terrifying smile. He said, "No, mister, that's not all," as the ghost boy reached into Derek's chest and pulled out his heart.
Usually when my clients arrive for their appointment, they're not wearing any makeup. But this girl wore makeup to the appointment just to have me take it off and then do her makeup again. I thought that was a little strange, but after I removed her makeup, I saw her nose. The tip of her nose was bright red and even a little bit deformed. It looked like a really bad sunburn. I tried to avoid the area when I started doing her makeup, but eventually I had to put makeup on her nose. And when I did, it was just not working. Her skin was literally peeling off. The makeup would not stay. So that's when I asked her, "Is there something going on with your nose that I should know about?" Let me also just say that at this point, it was starting to swell and was noticeably more red than it was when she got there. That's when she told me that she had recently been out of the country for a mission trip and that she had picked up a flesh-eating bacteria, which had affected her nose. Then she told me not to worry because she had been on antibiotics for months, and that the irritation on her nose was just her skin healing. For once, I was horrified, not my client.